Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, the School of Love. I am Maria and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. From the very beginning, I must emphasize the fact that this channel is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. With that being said, let's dive right into today's topic, which is a short list of how to live in the present. It is part of my series inspired by my children. The series itself is titled Things I Have Learned from My Kids, and it usually includes 5 mini ideas on how to live a more prosperous and more focused life. And today I'm going to talk about this topic which seems so complicated. Sometimes it seems so controversial, and yet kids, toddlers even, know very clearly how to deal with it. This is how to live in the present. That is, how to live in the present moment. I remember when my daughter was in kindergarten, which is like 10 years ago, she told me very clearly that she doesn't understand why I'm always thinking about things which might happen, and which usually didn't happen, or of things which have happened and over which I had no influence anymore because, well, they had happened. Particularly, for instance, when I had broken a cup, or I had missed an appointment, or, things happen. And she has explained me back then, like she was 4 or 5 years old, and she explained me back then, like, life is very simple. You wake up in the morning. Is number one. You wake up in the morning, and actually it's very good that you wake up. It's very good because then you can go to kindergarten. In her case, it was kindergarten. In my case, it's, going to work. In her case, nowadays, is going to school. And then you do what you have to do. In that very moment, you don't think of other things. You just do it. And then you have lunch and a snack. And you play outside with your friends. So in our case, we don't really play outside with our friends, but we can still communicate with those around us and enjoy our time with them because it's so limited. You never know what things might start moving in a direction you don't really like. And then your mom, in our case, in her case, your mom comes and picks you up, and you tell her everything that has happened in kindergarten. She still does. She still tells me what's going on at school. This teenage sense of adventure and discovering every day more and more of the world around them and making you part of it and enjoying it tremendously as if it's something which has not been repeating for ages. But this is something she has been keeping straightforward since she was, a toddler. This sense of awe, this sense of wonder, this sense of enjoying everything and living it as if it does happen for the first time. And I must say, observing her throughout the years, I somehow started to take over this attitude of living in the present and of enjoying things. Of course, things happen. Unpleasant things happen. Distressing things happen. Challenging things happen. Things we cannot really predict, but then we are in the situation to deal with them. But this also is part of life. This also is part of what makes us human. And developing this sense of, emotional and mental intimacy with those around us, in time, it turns into a source of mental freshness, mental clarity, and emotional stability, while at the same time being emotional flexibility. This is something we need. We need to be stable in ourselves. Each of us needs to be stable in oneself, himself or herself. But at the same time, we need to be flexible enough to adapt to those around us if we want to live in some sort of social environment. If we want to live alone, or if we want to live by ourselves, and regardless of those around us, we don't really need to develop this sense of instantaneous awareness. But if we want to be part of some sort of over-individual conglomerate or configuration, we have to develop this sense of awareness related to others. And then her fifth point was that you go to sleep at night. So this is a cycle, it repeats every day. There are some variations, but essentially you wake up in the morning, you go to sleep at night, and everything what's happening in between is a continuous source of wonder, of awe, of enjoyment. And even the negative things, you know they're coming, you have to deal with them, and then they are going. And this is this model I'm also proposing to you. When you wake up in the morning, it's good. It's good to wake up in the morning. It's good to be part of this greater whole, which is just fantastic. Waking up in the morning with or without an alarm clock is part of this miracle, continuous miracle, permanent miracle we don't really grasp, which is life. We take it for granted. Wake up in the morning, we take it for granted. But it is anything but just nature, just granted. It is a privilege. And by becoming aware of what a privilege waking up in the morning and then going to sleep at night, what these fundamental privileges are, there's so many people who do not manage the one or the other. Then we can use the rest. So if we will use these 2 points, waking up in the morning and going to sleep at night, as reference system, as independent variables, things which do not change, then everything else which happens in between is a sort of dependent variables in this huge experiment called life, both as individuals and as members of a greater whole. So this is what stunned me back then. Like, it's probably 10 years or more than 10 years ago, when she told me this, like in her very plain language back then. She told me, like, you wake up in the morning, you go to sleep at night, and and in between you go to kindergarten. I go to kindergarten. I do what I have to do in kindergarten, which is basically playing with kids and having some, activities appropriate for that age. And then you have lunch, and then your mom comes and you tell her everything that has been happening. And sometimes, yes, I feel sad because things happen. And sometimes I feel happy because things happen. And everything is part of this flow, which is happening between the moment you wake up in the morning and the moment you go to sleep at night. Even nowadays. So it took me years to grasp the depth of this life philosophy, existential philosophy. But once I managed to grasp it somehow, even nowadays, I apply it to develop a sense of gratitude towards everything that's around me, and then to do my best to use it at its highest, the period of time between waking up and going to sleep. So what does this mean? It means that, of course, I have my challenges. We all have them. Of course, I have my difficulties. We all have them. But I know, as long as I'm alive, as long as I am here, life is a gift. and living in the very present moment of every moment of my life is a gift and a privilege. And this gives me the strength and the motivation and the insight to keep going again and again, every day. So thank you for listening to me today, and I am looking forward to greeting you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.